Okay, we're live. So, welcome to Take Human Action PA, kind of. That's at episode 66. I'm Calvin. I'm your host. I'm joined by an ensemble tonight. Let's just I'll say what we're going to do in a minute, but we'll just do a quick roundup and introduce ourselves. Starting to my right, we've got Nick, a returning guest. How you doing, Nick?
Doing all right.
And then we've got a new person for the show, Alicia. How are you doing?
Doing good. Thanks, Calvin.
Alicia is a member of our state board here in Pennsylvania, so we are thrilled to have her on. And then she is followed by a returning guest, actually from exactly a year ago. I believe we had him on for our holiday special. Greg Deal. How are you doing, Greg?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Good to see everybody.
Yeah, glad to have you back for our holiday special. So I am just throwing up an announcement right now for what we are going to do. For those of you listening after the fact, I will tell you what we're going to do. So we are going to do a little bit of a skit right now. So I like to our audience, I apologize for being off the grid for about a month here, but I've had 2 episodes in the works. So one of them is tonight and one of them will be tomorrow. So this one has been in the works for a long time. We are doing our own take on a origin story of Yukon Cornelius. We all know him as the lovable prospecting gold miner who loves his hard money of the 1964 special Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He rescues Rudolph from the abominable snowman or abominable Snowmonster a number of times here. And we just thought there's a lot more of Yukon's story to be told. So we spent a good bit of time coming up with a story that we are going to share with you guys, and I hope you like it. So this is going to be so there is like a somewhat of a script that we have that we're going to be going off of, the 4 of us here, but it is going to be improv. We don't have any strict lines. We just have a story overview that we all just reviewed before we hopped on. So this is just meant to be like a lighthearted Christmas special episode. So nothing too serious here. We're probably going to have some mistakes. We're going to have some laughs, but that's the fun of it. So that's what we are going to do momentarily here. So we are going to have a few pictures to go with everything. So once I start changing my voice a little bit, you'll know that getting into the story, because I will be narrating the whole thing. It will be featuring Yukon Cornelius, but before he was Yukon Cornelius. So Yukon Cornelius will be our main character, but we are going back in time, back to the 1930s, before Yukon Cornelius was Yukon Cornelius, when he was just Cornelius, a bank owner in the small town of, I forget what the name he chose for the town was. You remember, Nick?
Evergreen Gulch.
Thank you. I was looking at the wrong act. Thank you. Evergreen Gulch. That sounds right. Okay. So small town in Colorado, middle of nowhere. So they are, for the most part, blissfully ignorant of the events that have been transpiring around them as far as FDR's election and all the crazy things that are coming down the government pipeline as a result of the New Deal program. So Cornelius is going to get a bit of a rude awakening. He's going to have some moments of despair, but there's going to be some moments of hope too. And we're going to have some fun all along the way. So Greg Deal here has volunteered to be our Cornelius. So let us get right to it. So, like I said, we're going to go back to March 3rd, 1933. So when I start so for those of you who are watching the video podcast, I would say this is the better way to do it. If you're listening to the audio, you will get some of the same effect, but it will not be quite the same as though you're watching the video podcast. So if you get a chance to watch the video podcast, I would definitely encourage you to do so, because you will be in for a little bit of a treat here as you see some of these images that we use to set the scene. So without further ado, here we go. So I first met Yukon Cornelius sometime later on in 1934 when he came up to the Yukon Mountains. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. So who am I? Well, I'm Russell, the Yukon Mountain Man. But my story's not so important right now. I'm just going to tell you about Cornelius. Well, everyone calls him Yukon Cornelius now, but back in the day, he was just Cornelius, and he was nothing like you see him now. He is just a regular old bank owner, bank manager at First Bank of Evergreen Gulch, the only bank in that town, and there weren't a chain or anything. It was just the one bank, and that's it. And yeah, it was practically just him over there. And he knew everyone in town, everyone knew him. So there are no big city bank. There's no big troubles there. It's just trying to mind his own business. They weren't doing any bank runs. Everybody trusted him. So how is he going to react to everything that's going on around him when the big government comes in to try to close his bank? So what are we going to do? Well, let's find out, because we're going to go back in time to March 3rd, and he's about to have his first customer walk in for the day. So let's go back and see Yukon and see what he's doing.
Right. Hey, good morning. How we doing today?
Morning. So let's cut to the chase here. The store's in a little bit of trouble, running out of inventory, and prices are going up more than you'd like. So I need a little bit of a loan to tie me over here. It's a little bit more than I normally be comfortable for asking for, but it's what we need to stabilize ourselves right now.
Okay, Mr. Jones, I think we can do that for you. You and I have known each other for 20 years, and you're good people. And I know that you're good on your loans, and you help the community out. So I'm more than happy to help you out with that loan. Let's sit down and talk about what how much you need, and let's get you set up, and let's get you stable today. Okay.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Just then, another customer walks in and says hi to the both of them.
Hey, how you
doing
guys
there, guys? How you doing there, guys? What's going on?
Hey, how we doing? What can I do for you? I'm with him now, but I can help you out in a minute. What's going on?
Oh, I know you always do good with your customers. So you finish up your business over there, and I'll just wait here for you. But just then, though, there's a message on the radio, and it talks about a bank holiday.
Okay, what is this notification that we're getting here? Let's hear it.
So the FDR comes into office, and he's saying to everyone, the banks are going to close down. Banks have to close down starting Monday of next week, and no one's going to have them banks open.
Geez. Closing the banks down? That's crazy. What are you going to do, Cornelius?
You know what? I don't know. We've been doing pretty good on our own without the government coming in and help and ruining things for us. What I'm really concerned about is the loan that you and I are talking about, that they may not let us reopen the banks if the government keeps interfering with what we're doing. So I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. This might be disastrous for us.
All right. Well, Cornelius knows he can't last too long in these environmental times with the crazy tumult of the business, and it's just too much for him to handle. So he's realizing that he's got to leave town, because word's getting out now. It's all over the papers that some big change is coming to the banking system, and that's not something that he can handle.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the best way for me to do is I need to go north. I need to go find myself. This is going to get so much worse, and the government overreach is going to hit us, and it's going to hit us hard, and it's going to hurt a lot of people in this town. So I need to get out of here while I can.
All right, and with that, Yukon decides that he's got to go, but he might be thinking that he's done with the government, but the government is not done with him. So let's see what's happening now.
Agent, this seems to be the bank where he worked at, the Bank of Evergreen Gulch. But I don't see Cornelius.
Yeah, it looks kind of empty to me.
Well, let's go find him.
Yeah, let's kick in that door.
And they
Hey,
find
you.
nothing
Hey, you
inside.
guys, where's
All
he at?
paperwork is gone.
Yeah, there's nothing left here.
Everybody in
Where's the
town says
record?
they don't expect him to be back.
Man, no one just up and vanishes just like that. He's got to be around here somewhere.
That's right. They said he headed north. I say we go after him.
Yeah, we'll chase him all the way to the North Pole if we have to.
That's right. Let's go.
Yeah. And them agents did pursue him all the way north, but that's not where we're going to focus on now, because Cornelius, well, he had a lot of venturing to do to find himself. And, he just went north, but didn't really know what he was going to do, where he was going to end up. And, well, next thing you know, he found himself on a small farm, and he didn't know what he was going to be walking into when he set foot there. So why don't we check back in with him and see how he's faring?
All right. Hey, this is a beautiful farm. Let me just go ahead and cut through this cornfield here. All right. Look at that. There's kids playing ball and everything. Hey, ma'am, can you tell me exactly where I'm at and what's going on down here?
Well, sure there, honey. You're on my farm. And
Right.
won't you come in and have a meal with us?
Ma'am, I'd be happy to. I've been traveling a long distance, and I'm in my middle of my journey here, so I would definitely appreciate that.
We'll get your tail feathers in here and let's have a meal.
All right. Thank you so much.
They just passed this Agriculture Adjustment Act, and I just don't know what we're going to do. They want us to sell them our vacant farmland, sell them our pregnant cows for slaughter. Corn is being burned as fuel. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do next.
Wow, that's terrible. When did that happen? What kind of effect is that having on you?
Well, we just don't know what we're going to do. We are barely making it.
Oh, that is terrible. That is terrible. And this was from the Franklin Roosevelt. Is that correct?
I believe so. That's what we hear.
Oh, that's awful. That's awful. So you have to sell your pregnant cows to be slaughtered, and you're giving and having your corn burned as fuel with no money coming back to you. How can people like this make a living?
Well, we just can't.
Man, I am so sorry to hear that. I wish you nothing but the best. But same type of thing happened with me. I owned a small bank in Colorado, and we realized that this just isn't the way that we need to do it, and we got to get north.
Well, I hear you, and God bless you. I hope the best to you. I don't know what we're going to do, but, as long as we're together, we'll be all right.
Well, ma'am, I thank you kindly for the food and the words and letting me know what was going on. I appreciate it, and God bless you, and I hope everything turns out for the best.
Well, thank you.
Well, now that farming family wasn't the only one that was running into rough times, as Yukon Cornelius would soon discover, because the next thing he knew, he came across a paper mill, factory facilities out there in the middle of nowhere. And, well, they were running into a whole new type of rough times of their own. So let's find out what they're going to be doing.
Good morning, sir. I'm looking for a job temporarily to help me make some money to help me get north. Is there anything available? Do you know who I can speak with?
Well, you can talk with the owner here, but as you know, times are tough right now. The National Recovery Administration has set limits to what we can do, set limits on what we get paid, can set limits on who can even work here, right? We're now there's a lot of work to get done, but we're all kind of forced to 35 to 45 hours a week at most, no overtime, and you know how tough money is at this point. and we every hour counts towards food on the table, and just not getting the hours like you can. And usually we'd go to the kids, and the older kids, and have them hop in here, but unfortunately no one under 18 can work anymore either.
So all these rules and regulations are all just coming out now. Why is the government doing all this to us? Do we know?
I don't know. I guess they think it must be helpful to someone, but it sure ain't helpful to us.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, sir. I'm going to go talk to the owner here to see if there's any work that I can I can attain in the meantime. Thank you. All right. Hi, sir. My name is Cornelius. I'm looking for a little bit of work to help me get through. Can you tell me if there's anything available here at this factory?
Hey, yeah. Sorry about that. I wish I could find something for you, but if I could pay more to work more hours, get people more, working more hours, I could expand, and I'd have a spot for you. It's just, I've been forced to keep smaller because I can't keep my lines running. I can't keep staffed up, and I can't, you know, run with the hours I can.
Well, y'all make
Yeah.
paper, isn't that a fairly booming business? I thought.
You would think. I mean, but we're out here in the middle, kind of middle of nowhere. We're not in some big city, so it takes time, and our the demand from out here just isn't quite as great, or it takes time to get it to the cities.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, sir, for your time. I guess I'll keep traveling north and try to find something else.
Well, Cornelius found that getting a job, earning a living was a little bit rougher in these times than he thought originally. Well, he was going to encounter a place where there was more than enough jobs to be had, but he was going to discover that there were more than a few strings attached that he was less than comfortable with. So I think we'll take a look at that now. So the next place that Cornelius found himself in is a little place called Rapid City, South Dakota.
All right. Dinosaur Park with the Works Progress Administration. Let me see if I can find somebody here. Excuse me. Hi, my name is Cornelius. What's your name?
Hi, Cornelius. I'm Sam.
Okay. Sam, what's going on here? I'm heading from down south. I'm heading up north, looking for a job. What's the deal with what's going on here? What am I? Is there anything available for me?
Well, there's jobs available. I don't know how enjoyable or how fulfilling they might be. The Work Progress Administration is largely, it's a government jobs program. So you've got a lot of people who are out here just messing around, collecting paychecks to do not too much work. Not too much is actually gets done here. It's like digging holes and filling them back in. I'm
Oh,
personally a sculptor here trying to make some nice artwork for the place.
sir,
But
did
there's
you
many
did you
people.
make all these sculptures?
I made some of them, yeah.
They're beautiful. But why do I
Yeah.
see everybody just kind of hanging out and sitting around?
Yeah, well, on the WPA worker jobs, you get paid whether you're busting your ass or if you're loafing around. So most people choose to loaf around and get paid the same as I do for working.
Well, thank you much, sir. If it's all the same to you, I would like to stay for just a couple days and help you out, do as much as I can before I continue to head up north. Would that be okay?
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, Cornelius did stay there for a little while, but eventually he realized it was time to move on because just about no matter where he went, he found some evidence of the same government intervention and hijinks that caused him to have to leave his bank in the first place and that was just not something he could afford to live with. He knew he wanted to do something else, but it was at that point he decided that with all the hijinks going on with the money, he just decided that he needed to do the one thing that the Roosevelt administration didn't seem to want them to do. Because after all, they made it a crime to hold on to gold there, and you couldn't exchange your dollars for gold anymore. So he decided he was going to go to Yukon and see if he could get him some gold for himself. So why not? So next thing you know, he crossed the border, went north, and went to go see what he could find. But he ended up finding something that he didn't really expect. And, well, let's just say it was a bit more than he could handle.
Oh, the Yukon Mountains. What a beautiful sight. Let's go ahead and see if we can find some gold. Speaking of, here's a gold mine. Let's go in there and see if I can start taking a look around. This looks like it's from the original Yukon Gold Rush.
Just then, he hears a loud rumbling sound on the outside.
Oh my God. Get away! Get away! Ow.
Well, Yukon finds himself wrestling with the monster, but he is just outmatched. Yeah, he finds himself duking it out with his bare hands and his pickaxe, but there's not much he can do. Just when you think all might be lost, he manages to get the pickaxe into his abdomen there, and, well, it's just enough to drive the monster away. And he ends up shrieking in pain like you've never heard a shriek before, big enough to shake the entire mountain range. And, well, before you know it, he ran off. But just then, Yukon had barely noticed with all his adrenaline that, well, the monster got a good swipe on him. And, yeah, he was bleeding all over. So he could barely stay awake.
Oh, before I'm going to pass out here. Hopefully somebody comes and gets me. If I ever wake up, remind me to get a 45.
Well, you could just say that's where I came in the story. So I guess I didn't really say it much before, but yeah, I'm Russell, the Yukon Mountain Man, and he was lucky that I just happened to be there, and I was out looking for some game, and I happen to live in a cabin not too far from the mountains where Yukon found his mine, and I never go over there. I didn't even know that mine was there. So good thing that monster screeched, because I had no idea anyone was over there. So I managed to pick him up, but his wounds were more than I could handle. So next thing you know, I just had to take him over to Anchorage because they got a hospital over there. It's more than I could ever do. So yeah, that's where we ended up going next. So I took him to Anchorage, but little did I realize that when I was doing that, I'd end up putting him right back in the clutches of the same IRS agents that had been chasing him all the way across the country. But, you know, at least he managed to get healed up first. But let's see what happens now.
All right. Hey, Russell, I want to thank you for helping me out and picking me up and taking me. I know that we're back in Anchorage, and hopefully that I can get back to the Yukon, because I think that's the way to be. But I really appreciate you looking out for me.
Well, now that I heard your story, Cornelius, I really admire you there. Like, I was telling half the town about you while you were knocked out after you started telling me a little bit about it. And, well, they're starting to call you Yukon Cornelius. Your story's a bit of a legend around here now.
Yukon, I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, of course. You got to give a bit of a legend name to a story like yours. So that's pretty incredible. Who we got at the door there?
Hey, open up, IRS.
Agent, we finally found him. He's in here. I know it.
Yeah,
Open up.
you owe us some money.
I owe
Good
you
grief.
I owe you money. What do you mean I owe you money?
You owe us money.
For what?
That's right.
You make money, you pay a money.
Well, I don't know what kind of money you're supposed to get from me. Your government has become so big. Your policies have destroyed my bank. you destroyed family farms, a paper mills in the middle of nowhere. You hurt day laborers, and you should honestly be ashamed of yourselves with the regulations that you're putting on average regular American citizens.
Hey,
Don't
we're
you
just
know
doing
that the
our job
government
trying to
always
help out.
Well, that was just about enough to stir the crowd that was waiting outside the hospital there, and they'd already heard about Cornelius's exploits, and they had no idea that some government agents were up and after him, but they weren't about to let him get harassed. They started gathering on the outside.
Hey, whoa, what's this? What are all these people here? No, we're the good guys here.
Yeah, it's all for the greater good.
Get out! We don't want you here.
Well,
Look,
next thing
look.
you know, they were getting pelted
Hey.
by rotten cabbage and anything else the
Ow.
townspeople could
Oh,
find.
Hey, you guys need roads too. Ow.
Well, that was just enough to
Yeah.
send them agents packing.
Right.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, yeah, town folk, I really appreciate you sticking up for me.
Well, the town folk were mighty grateful to have Yukon in their town, and that was about the most exciting thing that they could have asked for. And they gave him a hero's welcome, hero celebration, and well, they just spent the next week just whining and dining him while they heard the stories of his exploits, and everybody loved what he had to say. And well, he just got the whole town to back his gold prospecting enterprise, and well, there's some good business opportunities that it looks like Yukon might be able to pursue in the near future, and he's not deterred. He is going to go back to Yukon, but he's just going to make sure to play it a little safer this time and be more prepared.
Again, thank you all town folks so much. But I am determined to get back up into the Yukon. I'm going to find silver and gold. We're going to try to fix this currency so I can continue my search. Maybe we'll find some candy canes while we're up there as well.
Well, there you go. All in the Christmas spirit. So Yukon went out and searched for them gold mines, and he knew he was going to find a gold mine one of these days, but he just had to keep an eye out for that abominable snow monster because you never know when he'll show up again. And with that, well, you all know the rest, I think. Some old snowman told you. I have no idea what he's about, but apparently he tells the second half of the story, so I'll turn it over to him. All right, and that's a wrap. There we go. Woo! So, thanks everyone for doing that. That was overall pretty good. That was better than I was hoping for. So, here, I can't even shake the accent. So well done, everyone. Thanks again for your help.
No problem.
Happy to do it.
Yeah, so since we got a little bit of extra time, why don't we just go around real quick and everyone can say maybe something they learned or what their favorite part was or anything like that. So why don't you go, Nick?
Yeah, well, I think the big thing to keep in mind here, well, one of the big ones in the farm scene. So the Agricultural Adjustment Act that basically forced the vacant farmland, sell pregnant cows for slaughter, burning fuel. But also this led to a bigger court case, Wickard v. Filburn, which in the end ruled that the Interstate Commerce Clause in the Constitution applies to stuff that is neither interstate nor commerce, just as long as it might affect interstate commerce. And that kind of ruling has been used to basically grow the government endlessly. That's why you have states now like trying to say, well, we're going to manufacture suppressors in our state, and they're only going to be legal to be sold in our state and can't be taken out, and that's not interstate. And so you feds can't do it, can't regulate us on this, and we can do whatever we want. But it's cases like this that have given them, the feds, the justification to say no, even though you're not going between the state, you're only operating within your state. Too bad we still have control over it, and that's a long cry from where this country was founded on.
Yeah, that is a good point, because that enabled a lot of just about it threw any restrictions that might have been embedded into the Commerce Clause out the window. Now the Commerce Clause is basically interpreted as anything that could affect interstate commerce in any way, even if you're trading with someone else in your own state, that still counts as interstate commerce, because you're indirectly affecting the commerce between the states by doing a trade within your state. So
Right. So like that
just,
case was, yeah. So that case was about a farmer wanting to grow wheat, I think it was, on some sort of grain on his own land, because there were restrictions on how much you could grow. And he was saying, well, look, I'm not growing this for market. I'm growing it to feed my own animals and for my own use. And they said, yeah, but since you're doing that, you're not buying from the market what you need. So, you're affecting you're affecting interstate commerce like that. So it's an absolutely absurd ruling, and flies in the face of everything that is American.
yeah, long overdue to be overturned. Hard to believe it was unanimous. That just tells you all you need to know. Yeah, so that part is frustrating and true. Like all the stuff that we talked about in here, I just want to make that point real quick. The bank holiday, the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, Agricultural Adjustment Act covered all the farm stuff we mentioned. The Supreme Court case came a little bit later, but the Works Progress Administration, and the Dinosaur Park is a real place. You can go visit that, even though I think that I might have gotten the town wrong. The Works Progress Administration and the Dinosaur Park, that all happened, and the factory workers and the National Recovery Administration, that all happened too. So all that stuff is 100% based on New Deal policies that actually happened. So it's insane, the kind of things that they tried to do to fix the economy when you really look into it. So Alicia,
go
ahead.
I was going to say, I wanted to make a point that one of the overarching themes in that is that the government will track you down to the ends of the earth even in 1933. But now they won't go away by throwing cabbage at them. Becoming self-sufficient and learning to rely on yourself and your skills is an important life lesson that we all should be learning and taking from that.
And in all honesty, I do not endorse this for anyone, but in the 1770s and 80s, tarring and feathering was a thing. So sometimes we forget that. So yeah, people definitely looked down on tax collectors back then. Alicia, what stood out to you?
Well, my favorite part, without a doubt, has got to be the abominable snowman roar from Calvin.
It was excellent.
Very nice.
Considering I have been feeling a little less than great. Yeah, that was a decent roar.
And people think that, big government, that's just something, that has, that's a new thing. Like kids, now it's just now. But this type of behavior from the government has been happening, and just nobody knew about it like they do now. Like this has been happening for decades, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. So yeah, the best thing that you can do is, like Greg said, is just be as self-sustainable as you can. Work locally to control your area and work from the bottom up.
Yeah, and even with a lot of these public works projects, the best case scenario is like maybe they are doing something useful, but in addition to like the knockover effect of, not reduced accountability on the workers like we were describing, there's the crowding out effect where you're basically taxing the public's money and spending it on all these programs that crowds out private spending, so that all the people who would have spent their money if they hadn't been taxed, they're less likely to spend it. Now they have less of it, but also the price of all the goods for even just construction, if you want to look at it that way, like just general construction, all those like lumber and everything else that goes into it, the price is going to go up because the government's buying into it. So regardless, on both ends, like the supply and the demand side, everything is going to just be more and more difficult for the private sector to do all the projects that they would have done, you'll never know what you would have missed out on, because it's one of those invisible effects. Yeah. So, Alicia, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think you guys said it pretty well.
All right. So, Greg, what about you?
Well, I mean, other than the overarching theme there that the government will keep an eye on you all the time, I really think that we hit home on a lot of things that the government does wrong, and that they're affecting the lives of millions of Americans, with a lot of times without even really considering the American population, right? So they just make these rules and they don't actually think about what the effect that it has on everyday people, and that's a big thing, and that kind of says to me that we should be getting involved locally in our governments, running for office, going to the meetings, and trying to push our values and show our values to everybody, and why it's important that the government stays out of our own business. I think that that's a key point for me, that just, I don't know, it just seems to stick out everywhere I go and everything I see. So even in this story, that kind of stuck out.
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't always see the knock-on effects of what's going on, and more than just the crowding out aspect of it affects it in many other ways that we'll never realize. Like the story of the Evergreen Gulch Bank is obviously fictional, but one thing that I don't remember for sure the full details on this, but I don't think it started in the Great Depression, but the policies of the Great Depression and the New Deal certainly didn't help this. I want to say by like the Dodd-Frank Act, or maybe it was a little bit after that, one of those legislation packages passed in like roughly the middle of the 1900s. Since that point, since they dropped all those like massive regulation packages on banks, there's been like barely a single bank that's opened from that point on. If any, you've only had small banks close because they're not subject to the same economies of scale that the larger banks. They can handle the costs of the regulation and lawyers and whatever else they need. The smaller banks, when they're in an environment where they're having to deal with all these regulations, they just can't handle it anymore. So no new banks will open, but all the small family banks will close. So that's why in a lot of these heavily regulated industries, what you'll see is there's just a tendency for, maybe there's like 20 companies, and over time they're just going to merge with each other, and new companies aren't going to enter the market. And next thing you know, you have like 3 or 2 companies because they all merged with each other. And in industries that are less regulated, like internet commerce, you might have eBay one day, Overstock the next, and Amazon the next, and something will probably come after Amazon, because relatively speaking, that's less regulated. But when it comes to something like what we're talking about with the banks, I don't expect that to happen. So it's really unfortunate. So, any comments?
Yeah, and I think that we barely, I know that we wanted to talk about the, getting off of gold and the gold standard and things like that. And we just very briefly hit on that. But, that's one of the biggest reasons for our economic downfall, even to this day.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. So, if we don't have anything else to say related to that subject, I didn't talk about this with any of you ahead of time, but I thought we could just do something fun a little bit towards the end of the episode. So, maybe we could just say like one fun thing we're doing for the holidays, or one fun holiday tradition that you have in your family, or anything like that, so we can end the episode on a little bit of a higher note. You all good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Nick, what about you? Do you need a minute?
I mean, I don't really have anything crazy going on. There's like grandma's for Christmas Eve, and that's about it.
Well, what are you doing with? You probably have at least a few days off, right? So what are you gonna be doing?
Sleeping and probably LP related work.
Yeah, that sounds about right. You're on like 20 different committees. Oh man. Well, what's the project you're most excited about working on? How about that?
I mean, I've got a million things flying. I've got well, I'm trying to come up with a strategic plan for us to use going into the future. And I'm going to be working with Greg on that, and Calvin and whoever else wants to provide input, and that way we have a good solid foundation going into the future. And then there's also the election integrity stuff we kind of are playing around with, as well as the white paper I'm writing as far as my concept on the constable position and how that can be used. So I'm working on that paper, and that is I mean, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on it because I've been on everything else also, but I still think that's an interesting concept, and I can't wait to actually kind of flesh it out completely and kind of reveal what I'm thinking there and what we can do with it.
All right, cool. Well, I'm looking forward to that, and we'll have to set up a time to talk about that stuff a little bit more in the next few days. All right, what about you, Alicia? Anything fun you got coming up?
Well, as far as like traditions, we usually go to a Christmas tree farm with the kids. We've got little ones. We pick out our Christmas tree every year. Family comes over, all the normal Christmas stuff. Yep, that's a bunch of people in the house all at once. That's always crazy and fun.
Yeah, sounds like a good time. Yeah, glad you got that lined up. Having family over can be a little crazy, but definitely some fun stuff built in there too. So, what about you, Greg?
Yeah, well, obviously family stuff during Christmas. My favorite tradition that I've been doing, I think this is my 7th year, is I actually I run and I host an annual beer advent. So we actually get 24 people who will go out and buy different types of craft beer, wrap each beer individually, then they bring it to me and I sort them all around so everybody gets the same beer the same day. And they open them up from every day from the first day of December until Christmas Eve. So it's a fun way to spend the month of December leading into the holidays. So actually I have a local beer here from just literally about 6 miles down the road that was in our beer advent tonight that I'm looking forward to getting into very quickly.
Oh, that is a really cool concept. Nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. As far as on the libertarian front, obviously I'm working with Nick here and the executive board to start putting some stuff together for the future leadership of Pennsylvania and some of the strategic plans that we want to see going forward. And looking forward to the LPPA convention beginning in March, and then the national convention there in DC at the end of May. So a lot of things coming around, and it never seems like the work ends, but it's a labor of love.
Yeah, maybe we should do a Q&A or just an interview with you at some point now that you're running for chair. So we should talk about that going into the beginning of next year.
Sure.
Okay, so as for myself, well, I usually do at least a little bit of traveling around this time of year, and this year's no exception. Usually I end up when I am traveling in Michigan, so I'll be doing that for a few days. That is where my in-laws are, so I like it because it's cut off from everything, like even more so than where I am now. It's not like I'm super close to a big city, but they're like pretty far out there and like remote part of Michigan. So they're like close enough that if you're willing to drive like an hour to get within firing distance of Detroit, you can do that. But it's still like out in the middle of nowhere. So it's a nice feel to it, especially when it's snowing for the holidays. That's just a really nice backdrop. You'll love going out there and spending some time with some of her friends. And I'll actually be meeting up with the Michigan LP crew while I'm out there too. So
Real ones or the fake ones?
What's that?
The real or the fake ones?
The real ones, obviously. Yeah, actually, it was a new tradition of sorts that I started last year, since I've been going to Michigan just about every year for like the past 5 years anyway. Last year, like a week or so before I was going out, I just hit up Andrew Chatterton. Shout out to him. I was just like, hey, I'm going to be in Michigan. You guys around here? And yeah, it ended up being like 3 Michigan guys and me hanging out in Rochester, which is apparently a place in Michigan and not just New York. So yeah, we're hanging out in Rochester, and we're going to do that again this year. So I'm going to meet up with Andrew and a couple other people. So should be a good time. I'll hear about their trials and tribulations and the old guard trying to continue to say his party's illegitimate. So good stuff. Yep. So that's some highlights for me. I think that's it. So anyone got any final words before I sign off?
Yeah, real quick, I want to thank Calvin and Nick and Alicia for doing this, putting this stuff together. I think it was a lot of fun. As you could probably tell, a lot of this stuff was ad-libbed for those who were listening in, but Calvin did a lot of back work to get that information to us. I would really like to see us do this more, because I do find enjoyment out of it, and it tells some stories, and I think our side has quite a few stories to tell. So I thank you, Calvin. That was a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate it, and that's good feedback. So maybe we can, March and May, as we know, are pretty busy with the state and national convention, but maybe we can look at doing like a founding fathers themed one for the 4th of July or something like that. I'm sure we can come up with some other ideas, but
Well, we just covered a lot of the crimes of FDR. We should come up with one for Woodrow Wilson, maybe
yeah.
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, we'll have to come up with like a special anniversary for that. Armistice Day would be a good one, because that's the end of World War I, but that's in November. So
The founding of the Federal Reserve.
we could possibly dig up another anniversary though, like because the war itself started in July. So if you want to do like later in July, I forget exactly when, like maybe middle of the month is roughly when the Archduke was assassinated, and then the war itself started late July, early August. So you could do that time frame as well, but I'll have to look at some of the significant dates again. Maybe like when the U.S. declared war on Germany. There's a number of different ways you can look at it. Any other thoughts?
Nope. Sounds good. I'm down.
All right. Awesome. We'll get the I don't know. We'll get the German, or not. It wouldn't be a German farmer's wife. We'll find some other characters that you can play. Maybe you can be like Abigail Adams or something if we do founding fathers. We'll figure something out. Anyway, thanks again, everyone, for hopping on. Yeah, this was a really good time, and historical deep dives are my thing, so I can definitely do a little more digging to find some topics for the next one. And until tomorrow, because I'll be doing an episode on, talking about secession and Civil War. And when I say Civil War, I mean the movie, because we're going to be talking about the premise of the movie and conversations about nullification of Civil War from a libertarian perspective, and seeing what we can come up with on that, because there's a lot to say there. So until then, don't forget to take human action.